There's a plant that reduces inflammation better than ibuprofen. It grows in cracks, thrives in neglect, and spreads so aggressively that one root becomes 100 in a single season. For centuries, it was the pharmacy of the poor. Then it vanished from medical texts, from pharmacy shelves, from memory. We did not stop using it because it stopped working. We stopped using it because it worked too well. A plant that heals without prescriptions, that grows without permission and costs nothing cannot generate profit, and what cannot generate profit cannot be allowed to thrive. This is the story of the weed that reduced arthritis pain in millions, survived industrial erasure, and still grows wild at the edge of every forgotten lot. Before we dig into this history, if these forgotten remedies matter to you, the best way to keep this knowledge alive is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share this with anyone suffering in silence from pain that this plant could ease. The vault opens in ancient Persia, 500 BCE. Physicians in the court of Darius the Great record a remedy for joint swelling. They call it fever root. The plant grows wild along riverbanks and in mountain valleys. Healers dig the rhizomes in autumn when the plant's energy retreats underground. They slice the roots thin, dry them in shade, and grind them into powder. Mixed with wine or water, it reduces the fire in swollen joints. The preparation is precise. Too much sun during drying and the compounds degrade. Too little time in the ground before harvest and the root lacks potency. The healers know these things not from textbooks, but from generations of observation, from watching what works and what fails, from the accumulated wisdom of failure and success. Greek physicians adopt it. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, lists it in his Pharmacopoeia around 400 BCE. He calls it a remedy for gout, for the swelling that cripples kings and beggars alike. His writings describe cases: an elderly merchant whose hands seized into claws from inflamed joints. After 3 weeks of the root preparation, he could grip again. A soldier whose knees swelled after marching through mountain passes. The root eased the inflammation where nothing else had worked. These were not miracles. These were observations, repeatable, reliable, the foundation of medicine. Dioscorides, a Greek physician traveling with Roman armies in the 1st century, writes a 5-volume encyclopedia of medicine. He devotes an entire entry to this root. He describes its preparation, its taste, its effects. But more than that, he describes where it grows, when to harvest it, how to identify it in the wild. This is crucial knowledge. Not just what works, but how to find it, how to recognize it among 1,000 other plants. The leaves, he notes, are enormous, larger than a man's hand spread wide. The flowers appear before the leaves, a strange reversal of the natural order. These details matter. They are the difference between healing and harm, between finding medicine and consuming poison. Roman soldiers carry it in their packs. When battle injuries cause inflammation, when joints swell from long marches through cold rain, they chew the dried root. Pain recedes. Movement returns. Military physicians document its use. Legion medical records from outposts in Britannia mention it, from fortresses along the Danube, from desert garrisons in North Africa. Wherever Romans establish control, they establish gardens. And in those gardens, this root grows. Cultivated, protected, propagated. The plant spreads with the Roman Empire, carried by soldiers, traders, and healers, from Persia to Britain, from North Africa to the edges of Germania. Wherever Romans go, the root follows. It becomes naturalized. It escapes cultivation. It thrives in the cool, damp climates of northern Europe. It colonizes riverbanks and forest floors. It becomes part of the landscape. By the medieval period, European monasteries cultivate it in their healing gardens. Monks copy manuscripts describing its virtues. These manuscripts are precious, written on vellum by candlelight, each letter carefully formed. The knowledge preserved through centuries of turmoil, through invasions and plagues, through the collapse of Rome and the chaos that followed. The monks are not just scribes. They are practitioners. They grow the plants they write about. They prepare the remedies. They treat the sick who come to monastery gates seeking help. The knowledge is not theoretical. It is lived. Hildegard of Bingen, a German abbess and healer, writes about it in the 12th century. She prescribes it for joint pain, for the stiffness that locks the hands of scribes and the knees of laborers. Her writings are detailed. She describes constitutional types. Some people, she notes, respond better to the root than others. Those with hot, inflamed constitutions find the most relief. Those with cold, stagnant conditions may need different herbs. This is personalized medicine. Not one size fits all. Not a pill that works or does not work, but a plant that works within a system, within an understanding of the whole person. Peasants know it by 100 local names: devil's nettle, wild ginger, earth apple, bog rhubarb, plague flower. Each name tells a story. Devil's nettle for its ability to spread like a curse, wild ginger for the spicy taste of the root, earth apple for the large, round leaves, bog rhubarb for where it grows, plague flower because it bloomed in early spring when plague season began, as if the earth provided the remedy before the disease arrived. They dig it from ditches and forest floors. It costs nothing. It asks nothing. Plant a piece of root, and it multiplies. Harvest half, leave half, and next year there is more. No one owns it. No one controls it. It simply grows. This is abundance that cannot be enclosed, cannot be privatized, cannot be monopolized. It belongs to no one and everyone. In the 1600s, European colonists bring it to North America. Not intentionally. It hitchhikes in soil, in the roots of other plants, in the cracks of ship ballast. Plants are migrants, too. They travel in the baggage of empire. Within decades, it escapes cultivation. It spreads along roadsides, creeps into pastures, invades gardens. Settlers curse it. You cannot kill it. Digging spreads it. Every fragment left in the soil becomes a new plant. Cut it, and it grows back stronger. Poison it, and it returns the next spring. It is relentless. But native healers recognize it. They already have their own anti-inflammatory plants. Willow, devil's club, wild yam. But this newcomer is potent. Cherokee herbalists adopt it. They combine it with native roots and create poultices for arthritis, for the joint pain that comes with age. Choctaw healers experiment with it. They test preparations. They observe results. They integrate it into their pharmacopoeia. The plant thrives in the New World. Cold does not stop it. Drought barely slows it. Poor soil is no obstacle. It grows in shade, in sun, in clay, in sand, in wetlands and dry ground. Anywhere humans abandon, it colonizes. Disturbed ground is its specialty. The margins, the forgotten places, the edges where controlled systems break down. By the 1800s, it appears in American medical texts. The U.S. Pharmacopoeia, the official compendium of medicines, lists it as a treatment for rheumatism and gout. Doctors prescribe tinctures made from the fresh root. Apothecaries stock dried slices. It is cheap, effective, widely available. Medical journals publish case studies. A physician in Philadelphia reports success treating a patient with severe rheumatoid arthritis. A doctor in Boston describes using it for gout attacks. The evidence accumulates, not in controlled trials. Those do not exist yet. But in clinical experience, in the daily practice of medicine, in what works. But something is shifting. Medicine is industrializing. In Germany, chemists begin isolating active compounds from plants. This is the beginning of the end for whole plant medicine. The reductionist approach. Find the active ingredient, isolate it, synthesize it, standardize it, control it. In 1828, Salicin is extracted from willow bark. By 1899, Bayer synthesizes acetyl salicylic acid and trademarks it as aspirin. This is the turning point. A pill is standardized. Dosage is controlled. It can be patented, branded, sold at markup. A wild root cannot. Aspirin costs pennies to produce and sells for dollars. Profit margins are enormous. Pharmaceutical companies explode in size. Bayer becomes a global empire. Merck, Pfizer, they grow alongside the chemical industry. Many are the same companies, producing dyes and drugs, explosives and medicines. The line blurs. By 1920, aspirin is the best-selling drug in the world. Bayer's profits fund expansion into dozens of countries. Marketing departments are created. Sales forces deployed. The modern pharmaceutical industry is born, and it is hungry. It needs products, patents, markets. Meanwhile, the wild root still grows, still heals, still costs nothing. But medical schools stop teaching about it. The curriculum shifts. Botany is dropped. Pharmacognosy, the study of medicines from natural sources, is reduced, then eliminated. Textbooks drop it from their pages. The U.S. Pharmacopoeia removes it in 1936. Not because new evidence proved it ineffective, because there was no money in researching it, no company funding studies, no patent to protect. Wild plants do not generate revenue. They generate competition. And competition must be eliminated. Doctors trained after 1940 never learn it exists. A generation of healers loses the knowledge. The transmission breaks. What was common knowledge becomes forgotten lore. Patients asking about it are told it is folk medicine, outdated, unproven. Never mind that it was proven for 2,000 years. Never mind the thousands of documented cases. Never mind the clinical experience of centuries. Proof without profit does not count. Evidence without corporate backing is dismissed as anecdotal. The definition of evidence changes. Only double-blind, placebo-controlled trials count now. And who funds those trials? Pharmaceutical companies. For their products. The system selects for what it wants to find. By 1960, the plant is called a noxious weed in 12 U.S. states. Departments of Agriculture publish eradication guides. Herbicides are recommended. Chemical warfare against a plant. The same plant that reduced inflammation in millions is now an enemy. Not because it harms crops. It does not. Not because it poisons livestock. It does not. Because it spreads without permission. Because it grows in neglect. Because it reminds us that healing does not require purchasing. That nature provides without charge. That abundance exists outside economic systems. This is intolerable to an economy built on scarcity, on control, on selling solutions to problems that nature already solved. But the plant does not care about policy. It keeps growing. In vacant lots, along railroad tracks, in the margins where no one looks. It thrives in the spaces humans forget. The industrial zones, the abandoned properties, the edges of parking lots where soil meets asphalt. And some people remember. In Appalachia, old-timers still dig the root in autumn. They make tinctures in mason jars, alcohol extracting the compounds that ease pain. They do not call it medicine. They call it what Grandma used. In rural Europe, herbalists quietly continue the tradition. They sell dried root at farmers' markets, packaged in paper bags with handwritten labels. No health claims, no medical language, just a name and a weight. Word of mouth keeps it alive. A woman with rheumatoid arthritis tries it after drugs fail. Her swelling decreases. She tells her sister tells a friend. The knowledge spreads underground, root to root, person to person. A network of healing that exists beneath official medicine, parallel to it, invisible to it. Then science catches up. In 1981, a study in Germany examines the root's chemistry. Researchers find sesquiterpene lactones, compounds that inhibit nuclear factor kappa B, a protein complex that drives inflammation. This is the same pathway targeted by modern anti-inflammatory drugs. the same mechanism, but the root has been doing it for millennia, without side effects that send people to emergency rooms. Another study in 2004 tests it against ibuprofen in patients with osteoarthritis of the knee. 42 participants, randomized, double-blind, the gold standard of medical research. After 6 weeks, pain reduction is nearly identical. Ibuprofen scores 1.5 points better on a 10-point scale. Statistically insignificant. But ibuprofen causes gastric bleeding, kidney damage, increased heart attack risk. The root causes mild digestive upset in some users. That is all. The study is published in Phytomedicine, a peer-reviewed journal. It is ignored by mainstream medicine. No pharmaceutical company promotes it, no sales reps visit doctors, no advertising budget pushes it into public awareness. It remains obscure. In 2007, another trial studies inflammatory markers in human blood. The root extract reduces interleukin-6, a cytokine that drives chronic inflammation. It reduces C-reactive protein, a marker of systemic inflammation linked to heart disease. The effect is dose-dependent, more root, more reduction. The researchers conclude it has significant anti-inflammatory and analgesic properties. The study is published, cited by other researchers, then forgotten, because there is no incentive to develop it. You cannot patent a plant that grows wild. You can patent an extract, a specific formulation, a synthetic analog, but that requires millions in investment. Clinical trials, FDA approval, marketing campaigns, and the return is uncertain. Why invest in a plant anyone can grow when you can sell a patented pill for $20 per dose? The economics do not work. Not for companies, not in a system designed around patents. By 2010, over 30 studies confirm what ancient physicians knew. The root reduces inflammation. It eases arthritis pain. It works, but it is not prescribed. It is not covered by insurance. It is not taught in medical school. It exists in a shadow, used by those who seek it, ignored by those who do not. And the plant keeps spreading. In Europe, it is listed as invasive in 14 countries. In North America, it colonizes disturbed ground, thriving where nothing else will. Conservationists call it a threat. Herbalists call it a gift. Both are right. It is aggressive. It outcompetes native plants in some ecosystems, but it also stabilizes soil, prevents erosion, and provides habitat for pollinators. And it heals people. That part is not debated. That part is just inconvenient. So what is this plant? Petasites hybridas. Butterbur. The name comes from the large leaves, once used to wrap butter in markets. It grows across Europe and Asia, naturalized in North America. The plant is unmistakable. Leaves the size of dinner plates, sometimes larger. In optimal conditions, they can reach 2 feet across. Flowers appear in early spring before the leaves, pale pink or white spikes rising from the ground. The root is thick, fibrous, spreading horizontally underground. One plant becomes many. A single root system can span 10 feet in all directions. Harvest in autumn after the leaves die back. The root is at peak potency. Slice it thin. Dry it away from direct sunlight. Grind it into powder or make a tincture using alcohol. Traditional dose is 50 to 75 milligrams of extract twice daily. Studies use standardized extracts with at least 15% petasin, the active compound. Results appear in 2 to 4 weeks. Pain decreases. Swelling reduces. Range of motion improves. Some users report complete remission of symptoms. Others find partial relief. Response varies, but the side effects are minimal. Mild burping, occasional diarrhea. Nothing compared to the gastric ulcers from NSAIDs or the liver damage from acetaminophen. But there is a warning. Raw butterbur contains pyrrolizidine alkaloids, compounds toxic to the liver. Chronic exposure can cause veno-occlusive disease, a potentially fatal condition. Indigenous peoples knew this. They prepared the root carefully, sometimes boiling it multiple times, discarding the water. Modern extracts are processed to remove these alkaloids. Products labeled PA-free are safe. Studies use these purified extracts. The wild root used raw is dangerous. This is the complexity industrial medicine hates. A plant that heals and harms depending on preparation. A plant that requires knowledge, not just consumption. Pills are simple. Swallow and wait. Plants demand respect. They demand understanding. They demand relationship. That relationship has been severed. In Switzerland, butterbur extract is approved for migraine prevention. In Germany, it is a licensed medicine for allergies and asthma. But in the United States, it is sold as a dietary supplement. No health claims allowed. No medical supervision. It exists in a regulatory limbo. Effective, but unrecognized. Proven, but dismissed. The pattern repeats across dozens of plants. Turmeric reduces inflammation as effectively as corticosteroids in some studies. It grows wild across South Asia. Boswellia, frankincense resin, inhibits the same inflammatory enzymes as modern drugs. It has been used for 3,000 years. Willow bark, the original aspirin, still works, still grows, still costs nothing. But none of these generate the profit margins of patented synthetics. Aspirin costs 5 cents per dose to produce. It sells for 50 cents, a 900% markup. Turmeric costs a penny per dose if you grow it. Pharmaceutical curcumin extracts sell for $2 per dose, a 20,000% markup. The incentive structure is clear. Suppress the accessible, promote the profitable. This is not conspiracy. It is economics. Pharmaceutical companies are not evil. They are rational actors in a capitalist system. They invest in what generates return. A patented drug returns billions. A wild plant returns nothing. So research funding flows toward patents. Medical education is funded by pharmaceutical companies. They endow chairs, they sponsor conferences, they provide continuing education. Doctors learn to prescribe pills. Herbalists are marginalized, dismissed as unscientific, even when the science supports them. Even when the plants work, the system is not designed to heal. It is designed to profit. Healing is a side effect. Butterbur survived because it is unkillable. You can spray it with glyphosate. The leaves die, the root survives, you can dig it up. Miss a fragment, it regrows. It is perennial. It is persistent. It does not need us, but we need it. Arthritis affects 58 million people in the United States alone, 1 in 4 adults. The number rises every year. Obesity, sedentary lifestyles, aging populations, joint pain is epidemic. Treatment costs $300 billion annually. Pain medications, joint injections, surgeries, physical therapy, and the pain remains. NSAIDs mask symptoms. They do not heal. Corticosteroid injections provide temporary relief. Then the inflammation returns. Joint replacement is a last resort. Expensive. Invasive. Not accessible to most. Meanwhile, a plant that reduces the same inflammation grows wild, free, ignored. Some people are remembering. Online forums for arthritis sufferers share butterbur experiences. A woman in Oregon writes that after 8 weeks, her knee pain decreased by 70%. A man in Ohio says he stopped taking ibuprofen after 3 months on butterbur extract. No side effects, no cost after the initial purchase. These are anecdotes, not data. But data exists. 30 studies, thousands of participants. Consistent results. The knowledge is available. It is just not amplified. No advertising budget, no celebrity spokesperson, no pharmaceutical rep detailing doctors. The plant heals in silence, and it teaches something deeper. Abundance is not scarce. Healing is not rare. We have been conditioned to believe that health requires purchasing, that medicine must be expensive to be effective, that suffering is inevitable without intervention from systems that profit from our pain. But the earth provides. It always has. Before patents, before corporations, before the industrial medical complex, people healed. They used what grew. They learned from their grandmothers. They paid attention. That knowledge was not inferior. It was different. It required relationship. It required observation. It required humility. You cannot dominate a plant that heals you. You must cooperate, learn its seasons, respect its preparation, understand its limits. This is medicine as partnership, not medicine as consumption. Butterbur will not cure everyone. No plant does, no drug does, but it helps many. And it grows despite us, despite eradication efforts, despite being called invasive, despite suppression. It persists. Every spring, the flowers return. Every autumn, the roots thicken. The knowledge waits. In old herbals, in the memories of grandmothers, in the forests and ditches where the plant still grows, waiting for hands willing to dig, waiting for minds willing to remember. Climate instability is accelerating. Supply chains are fragile. Pharmaceutical production is centralized. 90% of generic drugs sold in the United States are manufactured in India and China. A single shipping disruption causes shortages. We learned this during the pandemic. Medications vanished from shelves. People rationed pills, suffered without relief. Meanwhile, plants grew, uninterrupted, unaffected by logistics. Butterbur did not care about supply chains. It just grew. This is resilience. Not the resilience of stockpiling, the resilience of knowing, of recognizing what grows around you, of understanding that the ditch beside your house holds medicine, that the weed you curse might ease your pain. This knowledge was normal for most of human history. It is radical now. Radical to suggest that healing does not require purchasing. Radical to suggest that a weed might work as well as a pill. Radical to trust something that grows without permission. But the evidence is clear. Butterbur reduces inflammation. It eases arthritis pain. It works. Not for everyone, not perfectly, but it works. And it is here, growing, spreading, waiting. The suppression was economic, not scientific. The plant was not erased because it failed. It was erased because it succeeded without generating profit, because it empowered people, because it reminded us that we do not need permission to heal. That knowledge is dangerous. Dangerous to systems that profit from dependence, from ignorance, from the belief that we are helpless without them. You are not helpless. The plant grows. The studies exist. The knowledge is available. Butterbur extract, PA-free, standardized. Available online, in health stores. Dosing information is published. Safety data is clear. You can try it. You can grow it, if you are careful. You can remember what was suppressed. Every person who learns this weakens the suppression. Every person who shares this spreads the knowledge. This is how we preserve what they tried to erase. Not through institutions, through us, through conversation, through experimentation, through the quiet defiance of using what works. People share what works, what helps, what provides relief when medicine fails. If this opens something, subscribe and hit the bell. Share this with someone in pain, someone who has been told they must simply endure, someone who believes healing is expensive. Every share preserves what they tried to bury. The next vault opens soon.